the conclusions are in the last paper called Growth Inhibition Confirmed. And I'm not much of a soundbite person. People that know my presentations, I'm not good at the people. I'd probably be terrible on Fox News with Riley. I don't know. But I just don't deal real well when it's got to be done in 10 seconds. And then they cut you off in the middle of what you're saying. But these last two papers can probably be combined in terms of certainly their subject matter. You might want it in a soundbite in just the last paper. But I'm hoping that you will read the first of these two papers called A Discovery and a Proposal, because it is the one that sets the stage for the conclusion that took place in the second paper. And the whole thinking process and rationale is outlined in depth in that earlier paper. And that's the one we just won't have time to go through, I don't think. So, you get the short version in the 5 or 10 minutes, but it helps to appreciate the line of reasoning, and in that case, again, a couple of months. The background behind that is probably at least 2 to 3 months of work, and probably several hundred cultures taking place. But let me bring up the last one. Well, I'll bring up the middle, but won't stay long on it, because I'll show you what's representative. It's not exit here. It's the back one. And I think they let me go back if we're lucky. Yeah, nice. Hang in there for a second. I hope. Yeah, it's probably quicker on my side. I don't know how long it takes to load up on your side. But I want to show you. I actually don't have the right picture. All right, well, I won't take your time with it. But this photograph that I'm showing you here, imagine that multiplied by a factor of probably 50 to 100, okay? In the sense of there's been a lot of cultures that have been going on with this work, hundreds of them by the time it's all over. A lot of trial and error, some lines of reasoning that were applied, some intuition, I would say. Combination of a lot of factors with a lot of trials, and then the evolution of a certain body of knowledge that I hope in the end is beneficial to us. Oh, great! Thanks, Lynn, Marie. What's the issue here? The issue here is that there's been years of work devoted towards describing the particular characteristics of this organism in great detail. And my emphasis and such has not been on the external filament or on the manifestation at the skin level, where I believe most of the attention has been focused. In fact, I think many people still believe that that's the primary manifestation of the condition, and I do not. It's internal that interests me and always has. And if you read my papers, you'll see there's 4 main structures that I repeatedly identify. One will be the exterior filament housing. The second will be an internal filament structure or nature to it. And then 2 of them will be these bacterial forms that I'm talking about. Well, the obvious desire is to, I guess, do 2 things, right? 2 things. First was, can this thing be grown in a controlled environment? Can it be cultured? It would be a tremendous breakthrough, no doubt about it, if this organism could be grown in a controlled environment. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We don't want to use the human body for trying things out as to whether or not they might work or not. It's not smart. So to me, there has been an obvious and important impetus to see whether or not these particular structures and organisms could be cultivated. And you'll find that body of work there, but it can be. And the first work was with agar medium, and then evolution to a red wine environment. Very unexpected, by the way. You don't expect to be growing things in red wine. If you did, it wouldn't be very appealing or attractive to be purchasing bottles of wine if you thought that they would harbor growth of organisms. And in an alcoholic environment, it's not what you expect. So certainly that was a big discovery in itself. And by accident, by the way. It was by accident. It was in extracting the dental samples that some of you may or may not be familiar with. But as a byproduct of extracting the dental samples, just by chance, they were left in the dish, in the wine dish, and I let them sit for several weeks, and nothing happened at all for a long time, several weeks, and then suddenly things started happening very quickly, and that was an accidental discovery. But growth was successful in a red wine medium, and great deal of study going on here to dissect these and try to learn what the life cycle is. And the life cycle progresses from the bacterial stage. To me, the greatest interest has always been in the bacterial components because they appear to be at the foundation of what we're talking about. They are always first in anything I'm seeing. The filament stuff is last. The erythrocytic stuff is absolutely last, it seems like, in that. But the bacterial life forms are of great interest and always have been to me because they are the genesis of the life stage and cycle. So this was studied in great detail, and then you have an evolution to where the material is grown in a clear environment. You know, these things are simple after they're known, but they're sure not simple to arrive at. You have something that's helpful, and then the tendency maybe is sometimes to not do anything more because you have something that you think is beneficial and meets the purposes. But over time, I suppose that's a year or two now, but over time, the problems of a red wine environment, even though it's solution-based, that was a huge improvement to get things in a solution. But you start to realize, well, you know, I can't see very well because it's dark. And so you start to wonder, well, could I do anything to get this into a clear environment? And, you know, I don't know how to explain this stuff because to me this stuff should have been done 1,000 times over, completely separate from me. And it shouldn't take me 2 years to discover it can grow in white wine as well as red wine, but it did. Okay? And that's pathetic, sorry to say. In some ways it's pathetic, in other ways it's fantastic, but it's not okay that you don't have the rate of progress that is needed. But eventually, it bothered me to the point where if I can't see, there's only a certain level of my progress is going to be hindered. In other words, so we did make it. It does grow in white wine, and that's a tremendous advantage because now you have clarity in the solution that you're examining. Things are a whole lot easier to see. So that's what these photographs represent in part. Is that the top two images you see there represent the early stage, very early stage, 3 to 4 days into the life cycle of this particular organism. You can't really see anything by eye there. You don't have necessarily the appreciation I do looking under the microscope. You'd have to dig through the papers, but certainly it has been documented very well, and you can look at those papers, and we can see this now up to roughly 10,000 level of magnification, which is quite respectable. There's no way around it. I wish I had more. I wish we had the electron microscope access. And, you know, some of the work Rice did where he was looking at things 30 to 50,000. It'd be nice. And it's all jury-rigged. All my equipment is pretty much jury-rigged. But we can see what's happening up to 10,000, which is above any type of conventional microscopy. And so it can be presented in detail what is happening in that culture, and it has been. Let me take a quick look at these other. All right, so these two photographs would show more developed stages. That left photograph would show this culture after about 2 weeks, somewhere in there, roughly there. Also, the temperature makes a big difference, it looks like. So when these were being done there in the winter, things were being put on hold for really months, it seemed like. Nothing happened. So the temperature obviously seems to be an influence. So it might sit like this for 2 weeks, that photograph, or several weeks, even a couple months even, if the temperature is cold enough, like it looks on the left side. But eventually, at some point, there will be a progression to sort of an all-out filament-type growth in that culture, and that's what the white photograph represents. And this particular photograph, I didn't actually grow this culture. I have an associate who's doing some work